All right, and we're back here with episode 2 of Brace the Hammer's Premier League predictions for the week. We didn't have such a great week last week, did we?
No.
Not at all.
No, we were terrible. We any type of professionalism is out the window. All bets are off. You know, chickens are out of the coop, horses are out of the barns. We're in trouble. But the good news is we have week 2 to look forward to, and yeah, that's the beauty of it. You know, every week you get to start new. Just to recap, last week, the worst predictions award, I guess, goes to Charlie. He was 2-7. He got 2 correct, 7 incorrect. Then myself, Jonathan, at 3-6. And then, of course, our all-star, Shourjya, at 4-5. Congratulations, Shourjya.
Thank you, thank you.
So we're going to mark that as a win for the week. And each week, someone will get the win, and then hopefully towards the end, we'll have a clear idea of who knows what they're talking about. Um,
The problem arises that some people know too much.
yeah,
And
yeah.
try and, so it's a tough balance to kind of achieve.
That's definitely why I did so badly. I was just trying to, let people get a head start, and then, I proved my worth. Comeback story. Everyone loves an underdog.
You want to be the Leicester of predictions.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's like West Ham season.
Yeah, exactly. I'm starting poor, but I'm starting to gain momentum.
There you
We'll
go.
talk about that
Find it.
later.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to kick it right things off. We have Sunderland and Arsenal this week at the Stadium of Light. And, yeah, I mean, we Sunderland in last place, winless. We really don't expect any type of problems here, do we?
I don't think so. I mean, with Arsenal, you're always on. It's very unpredictable what they're going to do, as with last week against Borough. But I think Arsenal have a lot of trouble with teams that sit back. They had, they were good. They were seconds away from a draw against Burnley, and second. I mean, there were a couple chances away from a loss last week. What's his name? The kid from Aston Villa. He had some great chance. Adama Traore. Yeah, he, he was kind of having fun against our defense, and I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in the Coquelin El Neni partnership in that CDM role. I think we need Cazorla back. But with these teams that sit back, I think Arsenal just get frustrated over as soon as like the 60-minute mark reaches, they just have trouble. And I think
You can say that about a lot of teams this year, though, right? I mean, a lot of the popular pressing teams, they seem to kind of struggle now when everybody's sitting back.
I think it has to do with their mentality. Honestly, like
The frustration sits in after 20 minutes, you think?
exactly. I think they stop believing in themselves.
Interesting.
So-
So obviously you're picking Arsenal here, right?
I,
So-
I'm still there's no. I don't think I can see past an Arsenal win. I mean, it's Sunderland. We did
Right.
draw against last time we played. We did draw against them, and at a crucial moment in the season, it was a 0-0 draw at the end of April, or towards the beginning of April.
But in their last 25 matches against each other, how many times has Sunderland won, do you think?
I think they've held us to a couple draws, but for the most part, I think we've come up with the win. It won't be. I don't think we'll run rampant, but if Ramsey's back, Ramsey has a good streak against Sunderland. I think I'm gonna go with 2-0. Um, I think the defense will get back to keeping clean sheets because it's been a couple weeks. Or sorry, no, it hasn't been a couple weeks. It's last week it was a 0-0 draw, but that was actually the clean sheet was the only pro of that entire game.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of good teams had draws. I don't want to talk about it. It's rough. All right, so 2-0. Charlie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Arsenal, it's been said several times, they struggle against teams that sit deep, and Sunderland are going to do that as much as they humanly can. I think it's probably, when I look at it, I see it a lot down to Alexis Sanchez playing up front. He's he's an unbelievably talented striker, winger, and he plays really well up front. But he makes a lot of really smart runs from deep. But if you sit deep, there's nowhere for him to run. And he sort of gets forced into a situation he's not as comfortable in, which makes him struggle a little bit. He's still super capable of breaking sound barrier. He can pull something out of nothing consistently. But I think Arsenal are going to struggle a little bit because Sunderland will. West Ham struggled a lot against Sunderland last week. Sunderland defended well. West Ham was super uncreative, which was a big problem. But Sunderland did defend well, and they sat deep as humanly possible. They had like 8 men in the box at any one time. It was like super duper last ditch defending for the entire match. And I think Arsenal are going to struggle to break that down. However, saying that, again, I cannot see past an Arsenal win, but I do think it'll be difficult. However, I am also going to go with 2-0. And I think once the floodgates open, they're going to open. But Adama Traore, I love him. Ex-Barcelona boy. Super, super talented. And the only reason I wanted him at West Ham, but his wages were ridiculous. But I think he's super talented and got a huge future ahead of him.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the crowd here, obviously, and as painful as it is for me to do say so, it is Sunderland, right? And we're talking about Arsenal. And the answer to the question before, Sunderland has only won once in the last 25 matchups in the Premier League against Arsenal, and so I think history will repeat itself yet again. Giroud apparently is the hot foot against Sunderland in the past. And you know what's interesting, Shourjya? I don't know if you're aware of this, but do you know who the only 2 teams who are unbeaten away from home left in the Premier League?
Is it us?
It's us.
Um,
Spurs and Arsenal. So I'm going to say that trend continues, and Arsenal wins 2-0.
awesome.
All right, so I'm going to just listen to the.
Cool.
All right, and moving on to Old Trafford. Manchester's taking on Burnley. Trying to save face from the embarrassing loss against Chelsea. I mean, was it embarrassing? Was it not embarrassing? I don't know. I guess that's kind of, it depends on whether or not you're Jose Mourinho. But yeah, they kind of get redemption here, hopefully. They should kind of put on a show, but I guess you never really know with this United side these days. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, I watched the Man United Chelsea match in a pub with 2 Man United fans and an Arsenal fan. And as if you listened to last week, as you know, I predicted 0-0. And I was saying, look, I'm adamant. This is going to be 0-0. It's going to be boring. It's going to be boring. And all the Man United fans had, a worry, which they usually do. But that goal within 30 seconds killed them dead. After that, their game plan was just out the window. Chelsea were very good. What I think is more worrying for Manchester United, though, was defensively they were all over the shop positionally. And Smalling, who was an absolute rock last season, looked horrendous. He was, I think, for at least 3 of the 4 goals, you could look at him positioning and be like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like as a defender, your basic job is positioning, and just with good, decent positioning, you can stop attacks quite well. And he had no clue what was going on around him. He looked like he had the awareness of something that isn't aware. I don't know. An apple.
What do you attribute that to? Do you attribute that to Mourinho? Or do you attribute that to, I don't know, a regression from form? And he's supposed to be one of the best center backs in the league. What happened?
I have no idea. I think maybe the early goal just hit them, and he just broke under the pressure. Maybe because that goal, he was at fault for that goal. David Blind was at fault for that goal. But let's be honest, the entirety of Man United was in fault for that goal.
Yeah, I think the other guy. Everybody thought the other guy was supposed to mark him.
Yeah, like Daley Blind sort of lost his man. Who is it who scored? Pedro. He lost Pedro because Pedro's super quick.
Pedro got the first goal.
Yeah, like Daley Blind is not a quick guy, and he is not going to keep up with Pedro no matter what anyway. But Chris Smalling's like caught in no man's land, essentially, looking left, looking right. And it was a great pass, fantastic pass. Like that's to take nothing away from Chelsea because that pass really was nice and that move was nice. But Chris Smalling got caught in no man's land, looking left, looking right, looking left, looking right, looking left, looking right. And by the time he stopped looking about, the ball passed him and play was gone. And that's worrying because Jose Mourinho, I think, is the sort of guy who will double up on defensive midfielders just to cover if he doesn't trust his defenders, and that could really hamper them going forward.
Well, Mourinho's always been a defensive first kind of guy. That's no secret. He says if we score 1 goal, that should be enough to win. That's always been his philosophy. How do you think that translates against Burnley, who will probably look to stack as well?
Burnley, I like Burnley a lot. I always hope they stay up. I think they're building the club really well. But I think Michael Keane's going to be back
Good
at
at
Old Trafford.
transitioning.
That might play a part in it. I don't know. He might prove a point or whatever. But I think Mourinho is going to go all guns blazing for this game. I think he's going to have to prove a point. And at home against Burnley is a pretty decent time to do it. It feels like a match that's very winnable for them. So I'm going to say
must win. You think?
I think so. I think after last week, I think if another embarrassing, especially if it's a loss, which would be super embarrassing, I would almost start to worry that what happened to Chelsea last season with Mourinho could happen again, because I don't know what his temperament is after last season. It seems to be all over the shop, and if they got another loss, that would be amazingly embarrassing for him. And there's no fitness people for him to blame this year. So I would say it's going to be a Man United win. I would say 2-1. But it really depends on how Mourinho approaches the game.
Okay, Shourjya, summarize that for us.
Well, I'm going to start off with Burnley because they had a great result against Everton on the weekend, and I predicted that. I didn't predict. I forget what I predicted, but I think I said that Burnley would do well.
You had a draw, yeah.
I had a draw. I think I had a 1-1 draw or a 0-0 draw. I was expecting a 0-0 draw, and then when Burnley took the lead off Vokes, who I said would score if they did get a goal, I changed that. I knew. I don't know. I somehow had more faith in Burnley last week against Everton than Everton. And I really do think they're a good team. And granted, I am going off what they did against Arsenal, but Arsenal had a really tough time against them. And I think I really don't think United's better than Arsenal currently on form. And I think they're going to struggle as well. I'm going to go 1-1 or 0-0 again, one of the two. I really can't pick. But I think Burnley's going to give them a tough time because they're basically playing Mourinho-style football against Mourinho, and I don't know how he'll handle that.
I'm going to keep buying stock in Manchester United just because they're so low right now, and that seems to be the smart thing to do. I think they have to win. I think there's really no way Burnley kind of... I don't even think they draw. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say we're looking at like a 2-0, 70% possession type of game. I think they're going to be fired up going here. They're at home, and they definitely have something to prove. What's interesting is, ever since Burnley came up and they played their first Premier League game against Man United, they actually won 1-0, and this is back in 2009. But since then, Man U's kind of walloped them every single time. So I'm gonna stick with Charlie, and I'm gonna go 2-0 as well. That's gonna be my final prediction on that. Right, so now we're going to go to Middlesbrough, Riverside Stadium, where they host Bournemouth. I don't know anybody that's calling this the match of the week, but it should be interesting nonetheless. You have two teams who are relatively young, relatively quick, fast-paced attacking. I think this could be a fun game to watch. Who wants to kick this off?
Maybe you two should, given the fact that both of their games last week were against your teams, respectively.
Who was it? Middlesbrough and who?
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth, right? Okay. These teams are getting very unpredictable to call because Bournemouth's actually playing well, and they've made some good additions in the offseason. I'm going to say that Jack Wilshere is actually playing really well. He's kind of a notch above the players that they have at the moment, and having someone better in your team can really pull up those other players that are not really performing to Wilshere's quality. But I think Eddie Howe has a good game plan, and I think Bournemouth's going to come out on top, not by much though. I don't think Middlesbrough is going to sit as deep as they did against Arsenal because they have a shot at winning this game, and I think that's going to be their flaw in their game plan. And I think Bournemouth are going to win it just based on their sheer attacking prowess. I think they have better options.
What do you think?
Up top.
1-0, 2-1?
Yeah, 1-0, 1-0, and I really can't tell who's going to get the goal. It's going to be someone.
I'm kind of with you. I think Bournemouth definitely has the better attacking options. These two teams have never met in top flight before, so this is kind of hard to predict. I'm just going to go strictly based off talent. Against Spurs last week, Bournemouth came out firing for the first 15 minutes and then kind of forgot how to play. That's not to say Tottenham, also didn't put on a show either. But yeah, I think the same thing. I think it's tough to pick out where the goal is going to come from. I'm not really sure. It was weird because Jordan Ibe came off after like 65 minutes, and they're their record signing. I know you mentioned Jack Wilshere, but what's funny about that is that Bournemouth fans on Twitter and social media were actually not pleased with his performance. But watching the game, I thought he played pretty well. So maybe there's something else going on there. I don't know. I just don't see how they lose this game, except that they are playing a Borough. So I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw in this one. Charlie?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Bournemouth a lot, actually. I think they use what they have really, really well. They've gone about building very quietly, building a very decent little team. Little team sounds condescending. A decent team. But like I said, they use what they have really well. Like someone like Charlie Daniels, I never would have picked out like 2 seasons ago as a really good player, but now I'm mildly in love with him. Dan Gosling, a guy who never looked like he was going to succeed in the Premier League, looks really good. Ex-West Ham boy Junior Stanislas representing really well. People like Wilson, Afobe, Joshua King. They've got a lot of really decent players, and I really like Bournemouth a lot just for the way they use it. And I'm a big fan of Eddie Howe as well. I think they've got a lot more options going forward than Middlesbrough do. I feel like Middlesbrough they've got some decent players there who can really pull something out of the bag. Obviously, Stuart Downing is a guy who, during his last full season for West Ham, absolutely destroyed it. They've got people like Gaston Ramirez, who's very technically capable, Negredo, for obvious reasons, Adama, as we've previously spoken about. But I think Bournemouth have more options. And like Shourjya said, I think Middlesbrough won't sit as deep as they did against Arsenal for obvious reasons. And so with that, I'm going to stay 2-1 to Bournemouth.
All right. Now we head over to White Hart Lane. My boy. I actually circled this match when the schedule came out just because I really wanted to see Spurs take on Leicester. And given Leicester's form, I know they won last week, but given their form overall in the season, I'm not as excited or as pumped up as I think I would have been if they were still exactly on top of their game. But I don't know, losing to Liverpool yesterday 2-1. Spurs have been very stagnant in their last few games. They drew out a lot. Hugo Lloris calling for more aggression, more clinical finishing in front. So I personally know what I want to expect out of this game, but I'm going to kick it off to you guys first. Shourjya, what do you think? I know you love talking up Spurs, so go ahead.
Again, this is one of those games that you really can't tell because Leicester have had such an up and down season. Last year, especially towards the end of last year, they're super consistent with their 1-0 wins. So this year, it's kind of been like Leicester blowout where they get blown out. Do you guys agree? Like it's mostly been like either they get absolutely destroyed or they destroy someone else. But there's been really no middle ground except for that one.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. They beat Crystal Palace 3-1. They beat Burnley 3-1, but then they lost to Man U 4-1, lost 3-0 to Chelsea. Their only real draw of the season was against Southampton, where nobody scored and everybody kind of looked lost that game. So
yeah, they also drew against Arsenal in the second match day of the season. I'm somehow feeling, and this is not me being biased or anything, but I actually do think that Leicester might win this one, just because like Spurs seem kind of disorganized at the moment. And they're currently performing. Their current run of form is below their quality, so I think they're a little bit more. I don't know, like a little like I don't want to say panicked because that sounds like there's some sort of crisis going on, but I think they're a little. What's the word?
There's an urgency.
They're just a little disheveled, and it just hasn't been flowing for them. So I'm gonna pick Leicester. I'm gonna say 2-1 because I think that they'll go up early, or not necessarily early in the game, but they'll go up first, and then Spurs will respond, and then maybe like Slimani or like Mahrez will come back and win it for them because they've been very clutch in those situations. They've been very, especially Slimani with his goals since he's come into the side. He's been just showing up for them, and I'm gonna say that. Yeah,
I don't want to say I totally agree with you because I don't think that's going to happen. But I think the Spurs play better when teams take the game to them. They're better on the counter. They're faster than a lot of teams. They usually have more energy than a lot of teams. Even the games where they draw back, they never really give up. They never really quit. And I know I'm saying that because my fanship's probably coming through. But if you really look at it, the times they drew or against Bournemouth and West Brom and even Sunderland, they won 1-0, but it looked like it was a tougher game than it was. It was because they were pushing everybody back. But you take teams like Man City, who also have a high press, they like, or even when they get struck first against, I feel like Tottenham plays way better when they concede a goal in the beginning because it's like something kicks them in the butt and they go into overdrive and they really fire back, and all of a sudden they're scoring 2-3 goals to come back to win. So I think Leicester is actually a good matchup against them right now. So I kind of predict a 2-1, maybe 1-0 kind of win. So that's what I'm going with.
awesome.
What do you think?
I don't know what to expect out of this match at all. As you say, I think Tottenham are better when people are dominating them. They're very good on counter-attack. Like you say, they can just outrun their opponents. They just can. That's a simple fact. But Leicester also are counter-attacking. I mean, their whole season last season was almost just counter-attacking 100% of the time. And they're going to be away in this match, so the onus will be on Tottenham to take charge of the match, and I think that could cause problems. But Tottenham played midweek, but they also rotated most of their squad as well, so that shouldn't affect them too much. But Leicester are sort of unpredictable. I maintain this idea that I just have no clue which Leicester City is going to turn up. Someone like Slimani I really like, but I'm a huge fan of Okazaki. I'm saying words because I don't know what I'm trying to get to a conclusion here, but I just
We're in
can't.
the same boat.
I can't quite make the decision of what I think it's going to be. I think it might purely come down to on the day what Leicester turn up. I think if we see Leicester of last season and Tottenham try to take charge against them, then they're in danger of being absolutely annihilated. But if we've seen the Leicester that have turned up quite a few times this season and Tottenham just sit back and sort of let them flounder and then counter-attack them, then we could see a Tottenham demolition. So I'm going to stay neutral and say 2-2.
Okay, that's fair. Do you think they lost some of their? Do you think they lost some of their counterattacking abilities when they lost Conte?
I think Kante's a huge part of it. I think he's such a good player at recycling possession and just never stop movement in that centre pitch. Is unbelievable to watch. And I think a lot of what he did, he made that team tick. I'm almost tempted to say under the radar, but everyone loves Kante, so it's not really under the radar. But whereas he's not on, I don't think he's on the Ballon d'Or list, but Mahrez and Vardy are. I think really he was one of the people who made that team work more than anyone else. However, I think there's also just a hangover factor to it. Last season they worked so unbelievably hard,
Is Jamie Vardy
and I think a lot of
I'm sorry, I just heard you say something and I have to interject. Is Jamie Vardy on the Ballon d'Or list?
Yep.
he
And
is,
Harry
yes.
Kane is not.
Well, listen.
Nor is any other Arsenal player. Like
Yeah,
no,
but Harry Kane was the golden
Can I
boot
just say-
winner.
Dimitri Payet is on there. I just want to make that point now.
yeah.
Just so you're both
we
aware.
have Hugo Lloris. Maybe they're only giving out one per team. Who knows?
Nah, they gave out 0 per team when it came to us.
I don't believe that. Okay.
But yeah, I think it's mainly going to turn up like what Leicester decide to do, and I think a lot of their defense was also basically on the verge of going over the hill. People like Morgan and Hoof are really like pushing their limits of how they can perform now. And I wouldn't fancy, if Morgan and Hoof get exposed, I would not fancy them against Son, Lamella, Ericsson, Ali, people like that. I really don't think they'll stand up well to that. So we'll see. I'm going to say 2-2, but I have be that on the provision that I have literally no clue what's going to happen.
Fair enough. All right, moving on to another team who's going to play each other for the first time in top flight English football. Watford and Hull City, and we're at Vicarage Road. Yeah, I mean, I don't. This for me would be like the game. I'm not really sure what's going to happen at all. I would probably guess a draw. But then again, I feel like if there are two teams that I know less about, these would be the two. I like Hull City just because they have so many ex-Spurs players in Dawson, and of course, So, what do you think? Let's go, Charlie. I'm actually going to start with you because you probably know more about these two teams than I do.
Boy, if I know more about these two teams than you two, then we're in trouble. Yeah, like I said last week, I really like a lot of Watford players. People like Pereira, Van Barami. I like a lot of their people. I just think they're, as I said, a club that shouldn't work, but for some reason they just do. I don't know why, but they just seem to be consistently changing absolutely everything, and yet somehow being consistent with results. And I'm not sure how that's physically possible. Hull, what? That's pretty much Hull, doesn't it? They have a crap ton of ex-Spurs players, which makes me have a deep-seated hatred for them. But as I said last time, I feel super sorry for their fans. So what's going to happen? Let's take a bash. I don't know. If Troy Deeney and Odion Igalo on their day can destroy any defense. Hull, I'm not sure, have a defense. I don't know. They sort of exist in this weird middle ground where sort of stuff happens and then stuff doesn't. Watford have the players and the ability to cut them open like a hot knife through butter if they really try. They could absolutely annihilate them if they got going. But will they get going? No idea.
It's tough because we last week we referred to Hull City as the kid who keeps getting bullied in school. People keep taking away his dollars, right? And Watford is like, I think we called Troy Deeney like almost Mr. Underrated because he never gets praised for the things he does, and on any other team he would be way more highly valued. I mean, I kind of want to go for Watford here, and I think this lines up for a win for them, but yeah, I think I'm going to stick with a draw. I think I'm going to stay with 1-1. Shourjya, what do you think?
I'm going to say Watford wins this one, just because I agree with a lot of what Charlie said about Hull being that team that sometimes something happens and then they don't do anything. I think this weekend's going to be one of those weekends where they don't do anything, and Watford just runs the park. So whenever we talk about their attacking options, we spend so much time on Igalo and Deeney, but I really like Amrabat. Amrabat is a very good player, and I'm going to back him to get on the score sheet this weekend. I'm going to go 2-0 Watford.
All right, 2-0 Watford, and not to leave Hull City alone, but Watford also has Etienne Capoue, so we have players everywhere. Moving on, we're going to the Hawthorns.
Hang on. 1-0 to Watford. There you go. Carry on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said your score.
No, I sort of like blanked out halfway through. I had a score in my head, and then I started talking, and my score just went away. Hang on, let me do that. Let me do that cleaner so you can edit it nicer. So I'm gonna say 1-0 Watford. There you go. You're welcome.
Thanks. All right, so pick back up. Okay, so we're going to the Hawthorns. West Brom taking on Man City. Man City disappointing last week, 1-1 draw, and of course West Brom losing to Liverpool 2-1. We got one of those predictions right. I'll let you guys guess which one. What do we think is going to happen here?
Charlie, you can start.
It's going to be 3-0 to Man City. I don't particularly, as we discussed, I don't particularly rate anything about West Brom. I like a few of their players, but outside of that, I don't particularly rate them. Pep is starting to get under pressure now, and maybe not needs a win. Maybe not needs a win, but I think the pressure's starting to mount on him to the fact that people are starting to go, oh, maybe he is actually human. Maybe he's not this great general guy that everyone thinks he is. And I think he's going to be super pumped up to win this game. And West Brom, I'm not sure, have anything to be able... I don't think they can mount a defence against Man City's unbelievable attacking prowesses when they're on top form, and I think that's exactly what Pep's going to be like. I think he's going to look at this game and just go, right, let's just take it to them. We know West Brom are going to defend. Let's just go full force and just try to basically roll them off the pitch. And I think that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to go with 3-0 to Manchester City.
3-0. Okay. I think, I think this. I kind of think the same thing. I think it's going to be a 2-0 victory. It's interesting because West Brom have actually lost their 9 last Premier League matches against Man City. But then again, Tony Pulis is a madman. I don't think it's going to be like a 3-0 game, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was 1 or 2. I don't see them getting on the score sheet against Man City at all, so I'm going to keep it clean at 2-0. Shourjya?
I'm going to say, I think it's going to be like 2-0 Man City. And I really think Pep might mess this one up too. Just because West Brom is one of those bogey teams that just does it sometimes against big opposition, or at least that's what I've seen. Or I've noticed them to have good games against like big opponents. That being said, I can't really back them fully with my predict. Like I can't predict a 1-1 draw because I just don't have that much faith in West Brom. But they can surprise you. So I'm gonna go with like nothing as not a blowout like Charlie, but I'm gonna say 2-0 Man City, but I also, part of me really thinks that it might end up being another 1-1 draw for them because it's not going well. And we're recording this on Wednesday night, and Man City just lost again to United in the Cup. So Pep, his tactics are pretty crazy, but this season it's not going as it was because they came out and win 5-6 straight games, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're on another level." But if you watch that Celtic game, they're not very sturdy at the back. They're not. Pep might need a couple years to win this title. He doesn't have it wrapped up like everyone thought he did at the end of September. He doesn't have the Grant also. He doesn't have the team he wants at the moment, so you can't completely slate him. But it's a work in progress. So
yeah, I kind of agree. I don't put him as a shoe, and I think really the top 6 is really up for grabs. We're only 25% of the way in. I could have just said 1 quarter, but I said 25%. I don't know why. We're a quarter of the way in, and so really, who knows what's going to happen, how form is going to take shape. But I don't know. I kind of believe in Pep a little bit. It hasn't been too good for them lately. So we're going to go to St. Mary's, Southampton, and Chelsea. Let me tell you some form here, just real quick. Chelsea have won 4-0, 3-0, and 2-0 in their last 3 matches. Southampton, another team with great form. They drew at Man City, which is away, which is crazy. 3-1 against Burnley at home. They drew at Leicester. They beat, of course, West Ham 3-0, and they beat Swansea. Southampton over and over again proving that they belong to be in the top flight against Chelsea, who's coming off 3 huge wins. I'm not sure what to expect. What do you think?
I mean, Southampton are an incredibly well-run club, and their team is the definition of well-rounded. I think if you look at a lot of the way they do everything, it just works really well, and they are efficient and really just solid. Chelsea looked unplayable against United, and just West Ham, and again, biases, kind of outplayed them quite well. Again, we're recording on Wednesday, so it's just happened, but they didn't look that dangerous whatsoever. They really seemed quite blunt in attack, and it took them to bring on Hazard and Diego Costa to really start to trouble West Ham's defence. And then even then, it was flashes. It wasn't a real pressure like it was against Man United. So what happens in this match, I'm not 100% certain. I think that it's another one which could go either way. And I think a lot of people have been saying recently, is the Premier League really bad? Because I think now there's this overwhelming sense in a lot of matches that it could go either way. But I love that. I think that we're finally starting to see a level playing field in the Premier League. And of course, a lot of people can say, Chelsea are a top 10 team after last season. But, let's make no mistake. Look at their team. It's ridiculously expensive. And so we'll see. Willian is a very good player, and maybe him coming back into the team a bit more consistently could change it. And we saw last season he was one of their actual shining lights, apart from the rest of the team, which were about as dear as possible. So I'm going to say 1-1.
I kind of agree with you, Charlie. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. I think Southampton's going to look to take it to Chelsea, or especially Chelsea coming off a loss against West Ham. But I don't know. It's so unbalanced, right? I mean, you look at Chelsea's squad and you're just like, how are they not struggling, but how are they not top 5 or so right now? It's kind of crazy. And you're right, Williams coming back. But if you look at the other side of Southampton, I mean, between Charlie Austin, Jay Rodriguez, and Shane Long, like any of them could have a good day on any given day. And I think really the midfield with James Ward-Prowse is one of the main reasons Southampton is able to keep coming at you. So I'm going to go with a draw as well, except I'm going to do 2-2, just because I'm always rooting for the high-scoring matches. Shourjya, what do you think?
Funny, I actually was going to predict the same thing, 2-2, just because, Chelsea's kind of like up for grabs at the moment. Ever since they played their third match day, I think they won all 9 points from their first 3. And then they've just been on this run where they haven't looked great until this past Sunday. So, and Southampton's actually been the opposite. They started not too great, and then they've won. They're on a fine run of form. So I think they're going to end up with a 2-2 draw. That's what I think too. I think both teams have enough personnel going forward where they can create goals. So I think it's going to be a fairly open game too. I don't think, and it's so weird to think about Chelsea as like an attacking team after so many years of Mourinho, but Conte that's the type of football he's been playing. So I also think it's going to be high scoring and 2-2. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, moving over to Stoke City and Swansea. Probably the game I'm looking forward to the least, that I have no stake in whatsoever, but why not, right? Swansea are winless in their last 8 Premier League encounters. Are they as bad as Sunderland? Just as bad? Are they going through like a weird spell right now? I remember watching them last year a few times, and well, more than a few times, to say, and they just seemed better this year. I don't know what's happening, but at the same time, Bob Bradley, how do I root against that? I don't know. What do you think?
Shourjya, do you want to go first?
I really don't know about this game because, like,
well, I'll give you a setup. So, for instance, Swansea, they lost 1-0 against Southampton, 3-1 against Man City. They lost 2-1 against Liverpool, 3-2 against Arsenal, and their only good play so far has been against Watford, where they drew 0-0. At home of all places. So they've been absolutely horrid to watch. I know they put up a fight against Arsenal and everybody's like, yay, they put up a fight against Arsenal, but it's the Premier League, right? I mean, it shouldn't just be like, good for you put up a good sport, and then you go out and draw against Watford. We had them, I think everybody here had them beating Watford last week, especially at home, so that was really disappointing to see.
Actually, I can say something about Stoke. Stoke is playing well.
They are, yeah, absolutely.
They're playing really well. Shaqiri in particular. So I know Stoke's in good form. I know they're playing well. I haven't really paid too much. I can't lie and just say that I know I've been watching these matches, but I just from what I've seen, Arnautovic and Shaqiri, they're combining really well, and yeah, I think I really I don't know because Swansea's always there, right? They've lost by one goal, as you mentioned. They've lost by one goal in like what, four of their five fixtures,
Yeah,
or they've
4 to 5.
drawn, or they've drawn. So I'm gonna go 2-1 Stoke for
I
that.
will say, Charlie, before you go ahead and jump in, Stoke was our big money ticket last week, where all of us won on Stoke. But just throwing that in there.
Right. On that note, I don't. Stoke are a really difficult team to predict because their forward force, their strike force, their attacking group of players can be absolutely devastating on their day. Shaqiri at the weekend took that game by the throat of his neck and just lobbed it around the room for a bit, and he was fantastic. The guy that we all, I think everyone who sort of knew about him before could see there was something there at Bayern, but he just needed to go and get game time. And now he's getting like, oh yeah, flipping great. Arnautovic, another player who can take a game by the scruff of his neck if you want. I'm a huge fan of Joe Allen. You know, I'm not gonna quite go as far as Brendan Rodgers and say he's the Welsh Abbey, but I'm a big fan of him. I like him a hell of a lot. But they all blow hot and cold. They all seem to have not much consistency to their game. They can either be Stoke as an attacking force remind me a lot, and I as a Stoke, but Marlon Harewood. You know, Marlon Harewood was a guy who on his day could obliterate teams when he wanted to, and then the rest of the time was utterly useless. Shout out to Marlon if you're listening. And Stoke are a little bit like that. Sometimes they can be just unstoppable, and sometimes they can be not very good at all. Swansea, oh, I said I wanted them to win last week. I said they would win last week. I think when you talk about them in comparison to Sunderland, I think Sunderland are just the worst team in this division. I think that is almost undeniable. Swansea, I don't think are far behind, but I think they're part of maybe them and West Brom, who aren't too far behind them. I think if you look at just the names in their team, you wouldn't say they could stay up, even though they've got a few big name players like Sigurdsson, Llorente when he's on form, Bastian, people like that. They have a few big name players, but by and large, you look at their team and you'd be like I don't know anyone who would have said, "Oh, do you know who Swansea should buy? Van der Horn." I still not 100% certain who he is, and he's been playing in the Premier League for like 7 games now. So on that, I'm going to say, despite all that, I'm going to sway Swansea are going to win it 1-0. I'm backing him again. It's maybe stupid.
You stole my pick. I have Swansea winning here 2-1 as well. You know, they're like a win away from being, or I should say, they're Sunderland's a win away from Swansea being at the bottom of the table. Only 3 points separate the two, and it's sad because if you given where Swansea's been in the last few years, it's depressing. But like you said, between I already gave all the stats before, but between Sigurdsson and everything else, I don't know. I think Stoke. You see a Stoke team one day, and you're just like, wow, this team is where have they been all season? And then sometimes they just lay an egg, and I feel like this is going to be the perfect lay an egg scenario. So yeah, I'm going 2-1 Swansea. All right, we're going to Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace, Liverpool. Lots of action in this one. I like Liverpool, but I know Crystal Palace has been playing really well. Benteke scored that 90th winner against them last time when they won 2-1 back in March. I don't know. I kind of see this being. I want to say a drawn out game. I think it's going to be a lot of movement in the middle, but of course it is Liverpool. So what do we think?
I don't particularly. I know amongst a lot of West Ham fans at the moment, Crystal Palace are rated very highly. I think a lot of that's down to the fact that they signed Benteke. But I don't particularly rate them that well. I think they're a mediocre team. I think if you split the league into a sort of three bands, the three bands being top six, mid-table, and then relegation candidates, I think they're sort of around the bottom of mid-table. I don't particularly rate them that highly, but they do have players who are capable of pulling something out of nothing. You know, Benteke is one of those people. Johan Cabaye can split. He's got a great passing range. I like Steve Mandanda a lot. I think he's a really good goalkeeper. I'm obviously in love with James Tompkins, so they do have some decent players. But people like Zaha and Townsend, I think, and this is purely my opinion, obviously, but I think they're horrendously overrated. I think Townsend is possibly the biggest one-trick pony in football.
I don't know if I can take this anymore today.
Mate, dude, he cuts inside and he shoots. I'm not sure what else he does. I look at him.
He was in the Tottenham Academy since he was like 8.
That's maybe where he learned it from. Then I don't know. I look at him and I think he's very good at cutting inside and shooting. But
that's all he does, yeah.
I mean, sometimes I see him running on the inside and he cuts outside just so he could cut back inside to shoot it. And Zaha flipping, that dude is crumblier than a rich tea biscuit being done tea too long. That dude goes down as easy as anyone I've ever seen. I remember a couple of years ago I went to watch Brazil versus Chile when it was at the Emirates, and I got to see Neymar in person for the first time. And I was shocked by how much of the game he spent horizontal. I think Wilfried Zaha spends more time horizontal than he does. He, against West Ham, and this is obviously a bit biased, but against West Ham he went down incredibly easy quite a lot of times. But he just seems to do that consistently. And he always seemed like a player to me who... I remember when Ronaldo first moved to United and he would go down very easily a lot of the time. And it was really frustrating to watch. And then once he really started to knuckle down and just concentrate on becoming the best player in the world, he killed it. And Wilfried Zaha never seems to get out of that. He seems to just consistently be someone who is very underwhelming to me. So I kind of don't rate Crystal Palace highly. Whereas Liverpool, I think are incredible. I hate it because I'm not a big fan of Liverpool at all. But I love Jurgen Klopp and their formation, the way they press, the way they pass, just everything about them at the moment. The way James Milner is playing at left back, what the hell is going on? I don't know, but I'm loving it. I'm loving every minute of it.
Me and Shourjya were just talking about that a few minutes ago before we started.
You put James Milner in a team, I'm already in love. But then you put him at left back. Oh, what are you doing? You're crazy, and it's working. It's great. I love it.
It's like he stopped being boring.
I just can't. I can't. I'm all about it. I'm all about it. I'm just James Milner.
All right, what do you think for a score here between the two?
I'm going to go for 2-0 to Liverpool.
2-0 Liverpool. I don't know. You know, it's tough for me because I feel like, between, like you were saying, Townsend, yes, one-trick pony, whatever, but it's amazing how people still get fooled by that one trick. Between True. Townsend, Benteke, Zaha, I mean, Cabaye's been playing well. I feel like if this team is operating on all cylinders, they're really tough to stop. And look, I'm not getting crazy. I'm not going to go against Liverpool here. I agree with you. I think it's going to be 2-1 Liverpool, maybe even 2-0. I think I'll probably go with the 2-1. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be as easy. I do like Liverpool in the sense that I like their team. I do like Jurgen Klopp. As much as I don't want to like this team, I do. I can't help it. They've got great players. They're fun to watch. Lallana is like a new player. He used to be like a 60-minute-a-match guy, and now he seems like the main cog in a very well-oiled machine. So, I got to give it to them as much as I hate to do it. I'm going to go with 2-1 Liverpool as well. Shourjya?
Who did you call a cog in the machine?
Lallana.
Lallana? Yeah, for me, I think that's Henderson. I really do. I think that he's positionally really sound. From what I've seen, I've really liked him this season because the people have just been going off on him, but he's been playing well. Yeah, Liverpool.
You think he's English national team well though? Because that's been the contention. Because he keeps getting called up, and people are like, "What?"
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of sketch. But if I had to go with either Lallana or Henderson, I would pick Lallana in the English team. But I think Henderson's more important to this Liverpool team. That's a hot take, but I'm gonna go with it because that's what I'm feeling at the moment. Um, as Charlie said, how can you not love Jurgen Klopp? Like he's just the most cheerful man. You know, he is what if there was ever like an angel and devil on your shoulder, right? It would be Jose Mourinho on one side and Jurgen Klopp on the other. Just being like, do the right thing, man. Anyways, so I like Liverpool. I like their fans because they're not plastic. So I really respect Liverpool. I think, and I'm getting sidetracked at the moment, but I don't mind them winning because their fans are a lot like my fellow fans, as in they haven't had the greatest seasons in the past 10, 15 years, and they sort of deserve it because their team should perform at that level. Whereas Spurs, they're more of an exciting story because they've taken a back seat in terms of the league for the past couple of decades, but now they're a competitor. So I think it's equally exciting for you guys, but I see Liverpool as more comparable to us. So I want to see them succeed, and I think they will.
It always goes back to Arsenal and Tottenham for you. I love it.
I try. Those are the two teams I know most about. So
Yeah.
I just try and I think for the most part my metaphors have been pretty on point.
Yeah,
so,
no, I'm not arguing. It's funny.
So yeah, I think again, Crystal Palace has been Liverpool in the past.
They shut them out last year, right?
Yeah,
It was,
exactly. So
2-1 Crystal Palace and 3-1 Crystal Palace.
yeah, so I think it's going to be 2-1 again. I think Pardew is a good manager. I rate him. So yeah, not much to say. I just think Liverpool's going to win it, but I think Crystal Palace.
Liverpool.
Right. Yeah, 2-1.
Cool. All right. Just to let you know, Liverpool's only won once in their last 6 meetings. Crystal Palace drew once, but they've also beaten them prior to their loss earlier this March. They beat them 3 times in a row, and they haven't had a clean sheet ever. So there will be goals, and it will be fun to watch. Okay, so moving on to our match of the week, which is our match of the week every week. We're going to Goodison Park, where Everton will host West Ham United. This is we're coming off of in all competitions 3 victories in a row. I'm excited. I think this is gonna be great. I love watching Everton lose. I don't know why. I just don't like them. It's not a huge Spurs rivalry. I've just never been a fan. What do you guys think? Charlie, you want to start this one off?
I am super excited for it. I don't know why I said it like that, but I am. I'm very excited. I watched us win tonight, and we took the game we looked like West Ham of last season. West Ham last season, we would go against big teams, and we just looked fearless. We looked as if they would come in waves and attack us, and we would just sit there and go, yeah, okay, and you got anything more, or can we attack and score now? And that was how we played tonight. Tonight, again, we recorded this on Wednesday, and the match just finished a couple of hours ago. Chelsea would come at us in waves, and for the majority of the game, our defence batted them away as if it was nothing. They didn't look particularly phased by the situation. Chelsea created some decent enough chances by and large, but they didn't particularly look that dangerous, whereas every time West Ham broke, they looked dangerous. Mikel Antonio, I don't particularly think would... before the game, I wouldn't have said he worked as a striker. I don't think he has technical ability to play that role, either to hold up or... I'm not particularly confident, even though despite his ridiculous scoring record, I'm not particularly that confident with his finishing with his feet. However, his tireless running caused Chelsea's back problems. Caused Chelsea's backline problems. He moved from side to side consistently as a striker in Slaven Bilic's system does, and that caused real problems. No one quite knew when they should pick him up. He just kept on moving side to side. Payet and Lanzini were running wild behind him, just moving all over the shop, and that's a dangerous prospect. If you're a defence looking and you see Mikel Antonio, who is a brick wall of a man and fast, running at you, running side to side, and then you've got Payet and Lanzini just switching all over the shop behind him, that's a daunting prospect. And then you've got people like Aaron Cresswell overlapping. You've got people like Edmilson Fernandez, who's come out of nowhere and absolutely destroyed it in the 2 games he's played. I'm confident. Everton, that's not to play off Everton at all. Everton are a decent side. Um, they obviously have a really good manager. They've got a lot of really good players, but I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident again after the last three matches, and especially tonight against Chelsea, that I don't think we're going to match the heights of last season at all. I don't think we're going to go on these ridiculous runs where we beat every single big team away like it was nothing. But I'm not scared. I was looking at this match a couple of weeks ago and thinking, oh my God. I mean, let's be clear. Romelu Lukaku will score against us because that's just...
He scores every time, right?
Yeah, I mean...
he scores. I think he has 6 goals against us in the last 6 meetings. So
it's one of those things, death taxes and Romelu Lukaku scoring against West Ham. It's just true. It just happens. But I'm not that scared. I think actually we could contain them. I think that we finally seem to have found a system that really works for us this season. And it's super exciting to see. And so I'm going to go with Everton going 1-0 up and then West Ham going ahead and beating them 2-1.
Shourjya, what do you think?
Did I drop out there?
No, you're fine. Shourjya?
I'm gonna agree with that. I really think that's gonna. I mean, also I want to make a note of you, John, what you said at the beginning, where you just don't like Everton. This is not to take a dig at any of the other teams, or any of these teams. And you, when I say that, that something that can be misconstrued as a burn might be coming up.
Yeah.
But
I'm bracing myself. Go ahead.
brace the hammer, huh?
Yeah.
But I really think Everton is kind of like the Spurs of Merseyside, they're just they're like, I mean, come on, think about it. They just haven't won as much in the past couple of decades as the other club in their respective area. So
Sure.
There can be that. I think that's my hunch at why you don't like them so much, because you see a little bit of similarity between the two, just in another part of England.
I think you might be right. You might be my football therapist.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad I didn't offend anything there, or offend anyone on there. So Romelu Lukaku is going to score. Obviously, that's just you can put that, or journalists in the press box can just like write out that sentence in their in their drafts before the game even starts. The West Ham showing a lot of resolve in the past 4 games. It's 3 wins and then, is it including the cup? It's been 3 wins and a draw. So, actually, is it?
No, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think I'm right. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's 3 wins and a draw, including the all competitions.
3 wins and a draw in all competitions. And they're showing a lot of resolve, and the team's really coming into it. So I think they keep going with that, and I think it's going to be 2-1. I think Payet's going to finally score. Sorry, he has scored. What am I saying? I think Payet's going to add to his tally. And as for the other one, Cheku scored, and then who was it? Fernandez who scored today?
Yeah, Edelson.
I think it's going to be Lanzini. I really like that player.
Yeah.
So Lanzini and Payet. Boom.
You do love Lanzini, even before we started recording. You were talking about.
Yeah. I was talking about how much I like him.
I want to believe this will be a West Ham win. I really do.
I don't like where this is going, John.
I'm sorry. I just feel like I don't know. I just feel like something like a storm is brewing. I don't know. It's just they have the pedigree. I just don't know if they have the pedigree right now. Everton lost 2-1 to Burnley, and they drew against Man City, and then they drew against Crystal Palace. But I feel like they're so much better than that. And and like you said, Lukaku's owned West Ham, and every part of like my my sentiments want to go with West Ham, especially since how they've been playing, and everybody's playing well together, and everything's great. Everybody's getting along in the sandbox. I just feel like something's happening here. I think they're going to try. I think they're going to try again. But I'm gonna give it to 1-0 to Everton. I'm sorry, and why not? I got to give it to the guy Lukaku's probably going to put in the back of the net. That's
Not
my
okay.
feelings. Not
Not okay, and it never will be.
I'm sorry, man. Hey, you guys up until this game and the Spurs game, we've kind of agreed on every single match. So there's got to be someone with a different opinion eventually.
Something's got to give.
Something has got to give. Real quick before we go, what do you think your match of the week is going to be? What's the game to watch?
This is going to sound a little bit biased, but I'm going to go with West Ham Everton. I think there's a lot of factors coming into this, and I think tactically it's going to be super interesting from Koeman and Slaven Bilic's point of view. I think that it has the potential to be super high scoring, but it also has the potential to be a rollover either direction. It's going to be biased because, of course, I'm a West Ham fan, but honestly, I think it's a game that could go either way, and from whatever perspective you're looking at it from, whether it be a neutral or a biased or a tactical or just a flair perspective, whatever you want in a football match, this match has the potential to have it.
All right, I changed my answer. I'm going to go Tottenham Leicester. I think that's a very exciting one.
Yeah, I agree, and I know it'll probably be pointed out because of my my fandom, but I think these are both two fun clubs to watch, and I think the most intriguing matchup of the week to see where teams actually are would be Everton and West Ham, but for fun factor, I would have to go with Tottenham Leicester or Crystal Palace Liverpool. But because I'm a Spurs fan, I'm going Tottenham Leicester, and I think it should be fun to watch. All right, so we're a few days away from things kicking off in the EPL. Thank you again so much for listening. We're going to come back in week 3 and go over how bad or how awesome we were. And if you have any questions or anything, let us know, and we'll be happy to answer them. But yeah, thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate it. And until next week, take care.
Bye.
See ya.